What happens when a CEO walks into his own store and no one knows who he is? Kellan Sawyer had built his fortune on frozen treats, but lately, the chill he felt had nothing to do with ice cream. He bought the small five-store chain 7 years ago when it was struggling. He poured everything into it: new recipes, cleaner stores, better branding. It worked. They were turning profits now, but something didn't sit right. The complaints trickled in slowly at first. A missed flavor here. A rude manager there. But last month, a long-time customer sent an email saying, "This isn't the place it used to be." That landed hard. Kellan didn't want a filtered report. He wanted the truth. So he shaved his beard, dyed his hair ash brown, and swapped his tailored button-ups for a faded hoodie and jeans. He created a fake resume college dropout, part-time gig worker, and applied online to his own store under the alias Kevin. The shop he picked was the smallest location, tucked between a laundromat and a pizza joint, but it had the lowest employee retention of the 5. No one in that store had ever met him face-to-face. Corporate didn't do in-person visits here, only district check-ins. He was hired as a trainee. The store manager, a lean guy in his mid-30s named Bryce, gave him a half-hearted welcome. "All right, Kevin. We're short today. Just shadow Priya, and don't screw anything up."
Cool.
"Yeah, cool," Kellan replied, adjusting his cap. The shop was underwhelming. The walls looked like they hadn't been wiped in months, and the Employee of the Month board still had a name from February.
It was July.
A girl behind the counter caught his attention. 17, maybe 18, with a name tag that read Addison. She moved fast, restocking napkins while scooping a double scoop for a toddler. She smiled at every customer like it wasn't a job. "Priya, the shift lead," whispered to Kellan. "She's the only reason this place runs." He believed it. But Bryce? He mostly leaned against the back counter, scrolling on his phone. Kellan worked the next few hours stocking toppings and cleaning trays. He watched how the team moved. Priya was efficient but stressed. Addison handled rushes like a pro. Bryce vanished into the back whenever a line formed. Around 6, the store slowed. Addison was restocking cones near the front. Kellan was wiping tables when he heard laughter, ugly, sharp. 2 teenage guys, maybe 19 or 20, stood too close to Addison. One leaned over the counter. "Hey, you ever smile like that for someone when you're not being paid?" Addison stepped back, her hands tightening around the cone box. The other one chimed in, "Come on, don't be stuck up. You're not that hot." Kellan froze. His blood went cold. Addison glanced toward the back, where Bryce was nowhere. Priya was helping a customer. She was alone. Kellan dropped his towel and walked straight up. "Hey," he said, his voice steady. "You two need something?" The boys turned. "Nah, just talking." "She's working," Kellan said firmly. "You're done." They looked him over, realized he wasn't backing down, and left, muttering as they walked out. Addison caught her breath. "Thanks," she whispered, her voice shaking. Kellan nodded. "You okay?" She nodded slowly, but her eyes were wet. That's when Bryce returned with the soda in hand. "What was that about?" Kellan stared at him. "You didn't hear any of that?" Bryce shrugged. "I don't babysit. She's fine." Addison turned away, wiping her face. Kellan clenched his jaw. He wanted to say something right then, but he wasn't ready to blow his cover. Not yet. Instead, he stayed late, helped Addison clean, watched as she finished tasks Bryce should have done hours ago. Later that night, Kellan sat in his car, hands on the wheel, heart pounding. This wasn't just about poor leadership. This was about safety, about dignity. He wasn't just going to write a report. He was going to fix this, from the inside out. The next morning, Kellan arrived 15 minutes early and stood outside the shop, watching the front lights flicker on from the sidewalk. The summer heat was already rising off the pavement, but inside the store, it was quiet and still. He wasn't scheduled until noon, but He wanted to see how the opening shift operated. Through the glass, he saw Addison and Priya already prepping. No sign of Bryce. The door was still locked.
Kellan knocked.
Priya looked up, surprised. Addison unlocked the door. "You're not on till later," she said, pulling her apron tighter. "I know. Just figured I'd help open. If that's all right." Priya hesitated. "We won't say no to an extra set of hands." He stepped inside and followed Addison to the back, where she was unpacking a new shipment of waffle cone sleeves. Her movements were robotic, eyes low. Not timid, just drained. "You get home okay last night?" he asked. She nodded without looking up.
Yeah.
"My dad picked me up." He didn't press further. Instead, he grabbed a stack of napkin dispensers and started wiping them down. At exactly 12:27, Bryce walked in holding a bag from a burger chain and a large soda. He glanced at the prep tables. "Cool, looks like you guys got it."
Priya didn't respond.
Addison walked past him without a word. Bryce turned to Kellan. "What are you doing here early?" "Just wanted to learn." Bryce raised an eyebrow. "You don't get paid extra for showing off, dude. Just saying." Kellan kept wiping the counter. "Not showing off. Just helping." The store opened slowly. A few parents wandered in with kids. Addison's energy returned slightly when she handed out samples. She had a way of making children laugh that couldn't be taught. Bryce hovered near the register but avoided eye contact with most customers. When a man in a button-down shirt and dress pants asked for a refund on a melted sundae from the day before, Bryce cut him off mid-sentence. "Look, we're not going to refund something you ate already. You should have come in the same day." The man frowned. "Your receipt says 2-day refunds for quality issues." Bryce shrugged. "I didn't make that rule." The man walked out with a shake of his head. Kellan turned to Bryce. "Wasn't the guy quoting our own policy?" Bryce tossed his empty cup in the trash. "Yeah, and people quote Yelp too. Doesn't mean they're right." Kellan held back. Not yet, he told himself. Later that afternoon, a delivery truck arrived with a stock order. Bryce disappeared into the restroom. Priya signed for the shipment and started unloading alone. Kellan joined her. "I thought the manager was supposed to handle this part," he said. Priya stared at the clipboard. "In theory." They worked quickly. The freezer was overpacked, and she had to shift boxes to make everything fit. Kellan noticed her wrists were already red from lifting tubs earlier. "You always handle deliveries?" "If Bryce is here, yeah. If he's not, Addison and I split it."
He paused.
"You ever say anything to corporate about that?" She didn't look up. "Doesn't matter." They finished unloading just as a family of 5 came in. Addison greeted them, but the youngest child dropped his cone almost immediately. Kellan watched her kneel, clean the mess, and remake the cone without hesitation.
"No charit."
The mother looked genuinely relieved. "Thanks," she said. "Most places wouldn't bother." Addison smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Mid-shift, Kellan asked Bryce if he could take a 15-minute break. Bryce waved him off. "Sure, whatever. Just don't leave Priya alone up front." But as soon as Kellan stepped out the back door, Bryce strolled to the front and grabbed his phone. Priya caught it immediately. "I thought you said not to leave me alone." Bryce shrugged. "He's the new guy. He can handle it." Kellan, watching from just outside, waited 3 minutes before walking back in. Bryce was still leaning against the wall, scrolling. Back in the break area, Priya whispered, "Don't take it personally. He's like this with everyone. Why is he still in charge? No one stays long enough to report him. And if they do, nothing happens." Kellan's stomach tightened. By 7, the store was packed. A birthday group filled the back tables. Addison was juggling 5 orders at once, smiling again, but visibly tired. A man holding a melting sundae approached Bryce. "Excuse me, my daughter asked for chocolate sprinkles, not rainbow." Bryce didn't move. "They're all sugar. She'll live." The man blinked. "Are you serious?" Bryce sighed and turned to Addison. Hey, fix this guy's sprinkle emergency. Kellan stepped between them. She's in the middle of 3 orders. I'll take care of it. The man nodded, grateful. Later, Kellan found Addison refilling napkins by the trash bin. She was quiet again. You all right? I'm just tired. It's not the job. It's never mind. He looked around. Bryce was in the back again. You don't have to keep putting up with that. Addison gave a dry laugh. There's nowhere else to go. I've applied everywhere. No one wants someone still in high school. He hesitated. What if things changed here? She didn't respond, just kept folding napkins. The last straw came just before closing. A teenage girl came in minutes before the lights were dimmed. She wore a headscarf and asked for a cone with 2 scoops of pistachio. Addison started scooping, but Bryce cut in. We're out of pistachio. Addison looked confused. The tub was still half full. We're not, Bryce raised his voice. I said we're out. The girl looked from one to the other, then quietly turned and left. Kellan walked straight into the back. You lied to that customer. Bryce didn't look up from his phone. We're closing. I don't serve people walking in at the buzzer. You singled her out. She was late. That's it. Kellan stepped in front of him. You're done. Bryce snorted. Excuse me? Kellan pulled off his name tag. My name is Kellan Sawyer. I own this company. You're fired.
Right now.
Bryce's face drained of color. I don't care how long your shift was. You ignored safety issues, disrespected customers, and lied to them. Get out. Bryce opened his mouth, then closed it again. He walked out without a word. Kellan stepped back onto the floor. Addison looked up from the mop. Priya froze by the register. He walked to the middle of the shop. I'm not Kevin.
I'm Kellan.
I started this place 7 years ago. I've been watching all day, and what I saw what you've been dealing with is not all right. Silence. You deserve better than this. Starting now, things change. Addison's eyes widened. Priya dropped the pen in her hand. He meant every word. And tomorrow he'd prove it. The next morning, Kellan arrived with a clipboard tucked under his arm and a plain gray t-shirt.
No disguise.
He stepped through the front door 5 minutes before opening, and this time, he didn't knock. Addison and Priya were already inside, prepping quietly. Neither had said much after the night before, and he understood why. He hadn't come to talk. He'd come to act. I need 10 minutes before we open, he said, setting the clipboard on the front counter. Priya looked at him cautiously.
Is
someone else coming?
No.
Just us today. Addison stood near the register, hands folded. She looked unsure, like she was still waiting for the twist. Kellan gestured toward the prep counter. Let's sit. This won't take long. They gathered around the stainless steel table in the back kitchen. The hum of the refrigerators was the only sound for a moment. I owe both of you an apology, he said. Not for last night. For everything that led up to it. Priya gave a small nod. Addison stayed quiet. I spent years building this company, but I stopped seeing what it became. I put people in charge and assumed they'd care the way I did. That was my mistake. Addison shifted slightly, but her eyes stayed on the floor. Kellan opened the clipboard and slid 2 documents across the table. Effective today, I'm promoting both of you. Priya, you're now the store manager. Addison, your lead shift supervisor. Priya blinked.
Wait.
I wasn't asking for, I know you weren't. But you've been doing the job without the title or pay. That ends now. Addison looked stunned. I'm still in school. I know. We'll work around your schedule. You won't have to take on more hours, just more authority when you're here. You've earned it. Neither spoke for a second. Kellan continued. I've also requested a temporary hire from our sister location to support you both until we fill out the team properly. You won't be stretched like this again. And Bryce? Priya asked, her voice steady now. He won't be back. Ever. Addison's shoulders loosened for the first time since he walked in. She didn't say anything, but she didn't need to. Once the doors opened, the mood in the shop felt different. Not lighter, not yet, but steadier. Priya had her nameplate swapped within the hour. Addison moved with more purpose, not rushing, just sure of herself. Neither of them smiled unnecessarily. They didn't need to. By early afternoon, a young man arrived a temp from the nearby store named Luis. He was in his mid-20s, polite, and immediately asked where the cleaning supplies were. Kellan watched from the back office as Addison showed him the layout without hesitation. He stepped out just as a line began to form at the counter. Priya handled the register, Luis scooped, and Addison managed topping restocks. The process wasn't flawless. Luis accidentally used the wrong size cup once, but Priya corrected it gently and moved on. Later, during a lull, Kellan called Priya to the office. I need your honest take on the team. Not just today, what you've seen over the last few months. She sat across from him, hands clasped. I think we've had good people. Most of them quit within weeks. But Addison stayed. So did I. Why? I needed the job. And someone had to make sure the place didn't collapse. Did you ever think about quitting? Every week. But I figured it was easier to stay than find something worse. Kellan marked something on his clipboard. Did anyone from corporate ever check in on Bryce? A woman from HR visited once. He gave her a tour while we cleaned the mess from the day before. She never spoke to any of us. He nodded slowly. That's on me. When she left, he joined Addison at the topping station. You're quiet today, he said. I'm still trying to believe this is real. It is. She eyed him. Why'd you come here instead of just sending someone else? Because I stopped trusting what I was being told. And I needed to see who was still trying. Addison took a deep breath. It's weird. I didn't think anyone noticed. I noticed. Just too late. She hesitated, then asked, Is this place going to change for everyone? Or just the store? Kellan didn't answer right away. Then he pulled a folded paper from his pocket. Starting next week, I'm visiting each location. No warning.
No disguises.
Just me, walking in and asking questions. Addison let out a faint breath through her nose. That'll scare some people. Good. The rest of the day moved quickly. Luis picked up the routine fast. Kellan gave him a small bonus on the spot for stepping in last minute without complaint. At closing, Kellan stayed behind and helped mop. Priya double-checked the safe. Addison wiped the glass display without being asked. As the final lights were dimmed, Priya turned to him. We've still got a lot of work to do. I know, but tonight was better. She nodded once firm. Addison grabbed her backpack. See you tomorrow, boss. Kellan paused. You were already leading. I just gave it a name. She smiled faintly, not the kind she gave customers, but a real one, and walked out into the night. Kellan stood alone in the quiet shop for a moment longer. He looked around at the scuffed floors, the faded chalkboard menu, the dented freezer door. Imperfect, but fixable. He didn't feel distant from the company anymore. He felt responsible, and he would make sure the people who deserved better finally got it. By Monday morning, news of Bryce's firing had quietly begun to circulate between stores, not from any public announcement, but through the kind of conversations employees have when real change starts to feel possible. Kellan hadn't planned on making a big show of anything. He'd seen enough to know that trust didn't come from promises, it came from consistency. So while the company's HR team reviewed staffing at all 5 locations, he returned to the same store he'd worked undercover in, this time with a clipboard full of notes and a checklist of specific changes that needed to be implemented. The plan wasn't flashy. It was practical. A maintenance crew arrived at 7:30 to repaint the walls, replace the flickering menu lights, and finally fix the freezer door that had been out of alignment for months. Kellan didn't oversee any of it from a distance. He helped move equipment, answered the crew's questions, and made sure they had what they needed. At 8:15, Addison showed up, eyes scanning the brighter walls before settling on the new manager placard above Priya's office door. "You really meant it," she said. "I don't say things unless I do." She set her bag down under the counter. "I thought maybe it was just a one-time thing. You showing up. I'll be around." Quietly, Priya arrived a few minutes later, holding a spiral notebook and a cup of black coffee she brought from home. She didn't say much at first, just nodded at the fresh coat of paint and started reviewing the day's schedule. Kellan pulled her aside after opening. "I want to bring in another part-time hire. Someone who can take weekend shifts regularly. We still need evening coverage. Luis can't do more than 2 days. I've already talked to hiring. You'll have final say on the new person." Priya tapped her pen against her notebook. "I'll write up a short training checklist. Something practical, not corporate fluff. Exactly what I was hoping for." That afternoon, Kellan stepped out briefly to visit the next store on his list. It was 20 minutes across town in a newer strip mall. The district manager, Carla, was already waiting when he walked in. "I heard you've been doing surprise visits," she said, her tone cautious. "That's right." She gestured toward the register. "We had a few turnover issues last month. Nothing serious. I've been monitoring. I want to talk to staff. Alone." She blinked. "Of course." One by one, he spoke to the crew. The shift lead, a college student named Ezra, mentioned that Carla only visited once every 2 weeks and rarely stayed more than an hour. Another employee, Tasha, said she'd been asked to skip breaks during rushes and was told to just eat something fast in the back. When Kellan asked Carla about the skipped breaks, she deflected. "They're young. They don't always follow the schedule. I've seen your schedule. There are no breaks written in." She crossed her arms. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating what I saw." He left the store within the hour and called HR from the parking lot. Temporary leave for Carla. Effective immediately. Investigate break violations and employee complaints. No exceptions. He returned to the original store by late afternoon. Addison was training Luis on inventory rotation, using a handwritten chart she'd made that morning. It was simple but effective. "You made that?"
Kellan asked.
"Couldn't find the old one. Figured it was easier to just start over. Mind if I scan it and send it out to the other stores?" She looked surprised. "Really? It's better than what we've got." As evening settled in, Kellan stayed behind the counter, watching the team handle a steady flow of customers.
No chaos.
No raised voices. No one hiding in the back. At one point, a father with 2 small children came in. One of the kids dropped their cone within seconds of walking out the door. Without hesitation, Luis grabbed a new cone, added a scoop, and walked it out himself. "No charge," he said. "Happens to the best of us." The father looked genuinely grateful. Kellan made a mental note to increase Luis's hours. At closing, Priya gathered the team. "We've got more interviews this week," she said. "I'll handle them, but if you've got friends looking for work, send them my way if they're reliable." Addison leaned against the counter. "My cousin just turned 18. She's looking. Have her come in Thursday." Kellan waited until the others had left before stepping into the office with Priya. "I want you to attend the next regional meeting." Priya raised an eyebrow. "You're serious? You're managing the best performing store right now. You need to be in that room." "I've never been in a meeting like that." "Good. They need to hear from someone who's actually on the floor." She exhaled slowly.
All right.
"I'll be there." Outside, the parking lot was emptying. Addison sat on the curb, backpack at her side. Kellan walked over. "Long day." She nodded. "Worth it, though." He sat beside her. "I've been thinking about what you asked, about whether this is just one store or all of them." She looked over. "I'm not stopping here," he said. "But I'm starting here because you made it clear I had to." Addison looked down at her shoes. I didn't do much. You stayed. That's more than most.
She didn't argue.
The next morning, Kellan drafted a memo to all 5 store managers, those still in place, and those now under review. It was short. No corporate jargon. Just 4 sentences. We exist to serve people. That means customers and employees. If you can't lead with respect, you won't lead at all. Effective immediately, all stores will be evaluated by the people working in them. He didn't sign it with CEO. Just his name. Within a week, 2 more managers were placed on probation. 3 new floor leads were promoted from within. A new break policy was printed and posted in every backroom, with a direct contact line to Kellan's office. At the original store, the new hire arrived Thursday morning, a quiet girl named Jaina with a steady hand and a no-nonsense tone. Priya ran her through the checklist Addison had updated. By noon, Jaina was shadowing the register. At closing, she asked if she could cover weekends. They finally had a full team again. That weekend, Kellan visited one last store unannounced. This one had clean counters, friendly staff, and a manager who greeted him without hesitation. I figured you'd show up eventually. Why is that? Because things at the other shops are getting better. People talk. Kellan smiled.
Good.
That's the point. He returned to his office that evening, the same one he hadn't sat in much over the past year. He placed a framed photo on the desk, an old one, from when the company had only 1 store, and he'd worked the scoop line himself. He didn't need to go undercover again. He just needed to stay present. From now on, he would.